Hey everybody on YouTube, how are you doing? This is Tim Lovelace, and I wanted to kind of do something a little bit of a recap of this year. So, I just recently turned 22. Thank you for all the happy birthday comments that came my way. If you forgot to leave a comment, no worries. I'm not too worried if you didn't get back to me and wish me happy birthday, but I do want to say thank you for the thoughts. Thank you for the prayers and everything in between. More importantly, though, I wanted to touch on something very important. Today is December 23rd, 2019, if I recall correctly. I'll just double check the calendar. Yep, that's what it says. And it dawned on me that I wanted to touch base with many people, maybe around the world, on my opinions of not only that we're getting close to the end of the year, but more importantly, towards the end of the decade. I mentioned this to people so many times these past couple weeks. It's crazy to believe that we're not only getting close to the end of the year, but also the end of the decade, the end of the 2010s. And I wanted to kind of, excuse me, I had a little burping there. I wanted to touch base and give my thoughts and opinions on the 2010s and the decade that it's been. So, this is a decade of huge change. It's been a huge time changing period. The 2010s, a lot of advances in technology, a lot of movements for certain rights, for certain benefits, for certain political statutes, or anything that made people want to raise their fists, raise their voices, and be heard. I think back to the very beginning of the decade, and that I was just starting out in middle school. It was my first year at JM, Joaquin Moraga Middle School in Moraga, California. And as of this year, I am finishing up my last big semester at DVC before I transferred, Diablo Valley College in Pleasant Hill, California. There's two campuses, but I'm at the Pleasant Hill campus. And something interesting that I've noticed, besides the change in the world as we know it from a political standpoint, is even the entertainment standpoint. So, I've been a guy who loves music so much, and I've been exploring music for over the past decade. Artists I never even knew of before. I was so focused on one artist, and that was the Beatles. I had grown to love the Beatles very little ever since I can remember my first babysitter, Miss Amanda, giving me a burned CD of the Beatles' #1 album that was released back in 2000 with the 28 tracks from Love Me Do all the way to The Long and Winding Road. And this decade, I even saw a change in myself. I transferred from being a prepubescent teen or tween to an adult where I am today. And I can honestly say not only have I grown up and learned so much in that time period, but also I have learned to be more open, be more honest, and more importantly, there are certain things I've discovered within myself that I never knew I was capable of. Above all, besides me as an individual growing and learning from that experience and maturity, going from tween to adulthood, I also wanted to kind of touch base maybe even on the music of this past decade. So this is a decade where the first half was really good music. The second half, not so much. Some good music here and there, but mostly EDM, pop, and not that much great music. But the metal, rock, and country still sound incredible. But more importantly, I wanted to kind of touch base on some of the big names that have passed on this year. I'm not going to name specific artists in general. People will probably know who I'm talking about, or they'll probably be thinking of at least one or two, maybe even more singers, songwriters, and influences that have passed on in this decade. And it's kind of shocking to know that really good music, really good artists, really incredible talent is going on the wayside or dying off completely. And it's kind of a little bit of a sad thing, because with the pop EDM music and some hip hop and rap music, not all of it, but some of it, it's just taken a musicianship turn. People have been putting music on the internet that they just did at the click of a button, that they made at a click of a button and a few taps of keys. And not much work went into that. And really good music like rock, country, metal, all the great music from way back then is just dying out completely, or is really, really going under the radar. And I think should be brought back, hopefully within this next decade of the 2020s. Above all, though, I do think that we as ourselves need to really, really learn not only about the environment around us, but also even learn about ourselves. Understand who we are. Understand why we are here today. Understand what can we contribute to our country, what can we contribute to our family, what can we contribute to society. And overall, I think the most important goal is being considerate of not just you and your family, but maybe even others around you. I think that there is so much that we don't know. As the saying goes, we will never know a person until we step into their shoes and slip into their skin and walk around in it for a day. As the late great Harper Lee, author of To Kill a Mockingbird, which that quote that I mentioned is from that respective book. We just don't know who we're going to meet in life that could change our lives for a day, for a week, for a month, for years, or even forever. They could be our greatest influence. They could be our greatest mentor. They could be our greatest friend, greatest companion. Who knows? Anything can happen. But also, even life itself can happen. And I do believe that we need to be aware of what days we have here on this earth, because one day we live, we're one day closer to God. And every day I wake up, I always want to be thankful that I am alive doing what I love doing, whether it be music, going to school, or even video games, but more importantly, being with the family that I know and love, who support me, who push me to be a better individual myself, but also even a better musician. Aside from that, I wanted to thank each and everybody on YouTube, on Facebook, everybody I've been social with outside of the social platforms. And above all, I want to be thankful for my family. I want to be thankful that going into the 2020s, I know they will always be by my side, as well as me always being there for them. But other than that, I thank you so much for your time, and I wish everybody nothing but the best. I wish everybody a wonderful 2020s, a wonderful 2020, and even many more years to come past the new decade, and that's filled with nothing but happiness, love, thankfulness, and nothing but the positive. All right. And this is Tim Alvice signing off till 2020.